Shirley, so the long-awaited moment has arrived, and Little Footprints is out on the market. And we've fallen in love with it again after working on it 10 years ago. I couldn't believe that when you said it was 10 years. Initially, we wrote Little Footprints around about 2005. Then we did the update in 2015, and here we are in 2025 with a brand new look. I was saying to a couple of folk that it started to look like Cinderella left behind, and the beautiful stepsisters all went off to the ball, and Little Footprints was still in black and white, and some of the books were out of print, and so we've given it a beautiful new revamp. So why don't you start with what we've taken out of Little Footprints, or perhaps let's talk first about what the ideas were behind creating Little Footprints initially and how we've enhanced that.
Yeah, so in the early 2000s, when we were homeschooling our children who had just started school, we kept finding these beautiful South African stories. And we both realized that we wanted this for our younger children so that they could learn about South Africa through these stories, just like we were learning about other countries through stories from those countries. And so the idea was to make a gentle, age-appropriate home education program that was literature-based so that children could just learn about their own country in this lovely, gentle way, and that it would also be stress-free and really easy for mothers. Give them ideas for hands-on activities, all the topics they need to cover, make lesson planning a breeze, because as homeschooling moms, we all are juggling a lot of different things, and you just want that convenience. So it was designed for children between 4 and 8, so that if you've got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, or a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, you could use the same program with both of them or all of them, and that also makes a mother's life simpler.
Absolutely. Yeah, the flexibility, I think, is the greatest thing, and not spending hours and hours on a weekend looking for materials. And also the other thing is the storybooks. They've been vetted. We've gone and we've looked through hundreds of books and many different publishers to find some beautiful books for your family. Even going back to books that were out of print. So they were initially there in 2000 and early 2000s, went out of print, and we have been able to contact either the authors, illustrators, or the heirs of the authors and get those books back into print. And that's just so very exciting. I think the other big thing is that Little Footprints is no longer black and white. We've put in a lot of color, and that just makes me so happy when I look through the guide and I just see, she's got her ballroom gown on now, which makes me very excited.
Yeah. The other thing is that we've followed a Charlotte Mason style of education, and what's been really encouraging and exciting over the years is to see modern research that is confirming that these age-old methods of reading stories to children really works. And there's research now that shows that children who are read to can get up to 1.4 million words in the vocabulary that gives them this huge academic advantage. So much so that social scientists say that it sets them up for life, and that the amount of reading you do with your children in this early time really has this lasting impact. So that's really great to know, and to get more confirmation about that. And then, of course, the new edition, we've added in all those other Charlotte Mason elements, and you can start talking about those.
Yeah, I call them all the lovely stuff, the beautiful stuff that we do in the things that parents think about when they think about homeschooling outside of just doing maths and reading. So we've put in poetry appreciation, music appreciation, and we've really tapped into our roots, the 80s with Johnny Clegg. And we've even put in one of my husband's favorite instrumental musicians, Hugh Masekela. We've got some PJ Powers, so there really are some South African music icons tucked in there. We've included art appreciation. using the artwork in the storybooks as an introduction into how to do art appreciation, with a lot of little discussion prompts. And then the last thing that we also added was some sort of templates for you to do your different activities. So they used to be in the back of the guide. They now are downloadable from the protected course website, along with the different craft, how to do the crafts, how to put together the different activities, etc. So that's all there as well.
Also beautiful, beautiful full color YouTube videos that
Oh,
are little short clips about many of the topics that we're learning about, so
yeah.
that it really makes it come alive for the kids. You know, if you read about the Cape Town cable car, there's a little video clip that will show it to you and explain how it works, especially if you don't live in Cape
Cape
Town.
Town, yeah.
You know, the video clip helps you to actually go there anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
things like that make it really fun and multi-sensory. So it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole multimedia approach. Then the other thing is that we have included a lot of geography, a lot of nature study, as well, because that is one of Charlotte Mason's basic principles, that for children, for the first 6 years of their life at least, should spend the majority of their time in the outdoors. And it becomes this thing that feeds on itself, is that the more time you spend outdoors, the more time you want to spend outdoors. And the more you see your children learning from what is outside their windows, the more you want to give them those opportunities. So we've created a space where every week you will go and do some form of nature study as well. Do you want to talk about some of the updated stories that we've now included in the new version?
Well, we've got a variety of stories. So, you know, our favorites are set, or my favorite one is set in the Transkei. There's another one set in the rolling green hills of KwaZulu-Natal. But we found a fabulous story that's actually set in the desert, and there's themes about water and water conservation and, you know, all sorts of other things that came out of that beautiful story.
Yeah.
We've got one that is a trip that goes from Kruger National Park via Addo Elephant Park to Cape Town. And, you know, wherever you are in South Africa, there's going to be something that's close to your area that your children can relate to. Some are animal stories, some are about people, some are city stories, some are rural. And the other thing that people need to know is that because Little Footprints is about our country, it celebrates all our cultures and all our peoples and all different kinds of families. So you'll read about children who live with their granny, and you'll read about children who live with their parents, like hopefully your children do. But our children are going to see that some people are the same as us and some people are different. And that's an important lesson that we think that all South Africans should learn.
Absolutely. And I think that each of those stories over the years, and I don't think it's going to be any different now, has found a little space in children's hearts. I mean, you've got a story to tell, I know, about one of your daughters.
Yeah.
I love the story about the book that we use based around birds of prey. And the one little boy, he just went on a deep dive, and he ended up as one of the youngest volunteers at the Bird Rescue Centre up in KZN. And that was sparked from the interest in the book. And this is what you're looking for, the science of relations that develops with information. And the best way to do that is through storybooks. You've got a story to tell.
Yeah. So my story is that we only visited Boulders Beach in Cape Town, where there's a penguin colony, a few years ago. And my daughter, who had done Little Footprints, was already 15 years old. And we had done our Footprints Nature Quest quite recently at that time as well. And when we went there, she was looking at those penguins and she was saying, I wonder which one is Peter the penguin. And look, there's where the bougainvilleas would have lived. And there's Monty the mongoose, who featured in yet another story. And it was, you know, she's 15 years old, but she's built this connection with these characters in the picture books that she read when she was 5 or 6 or 7. And the learning stuck. The engagement with those characters had stuck, and she remembered them. And that just shows me the power of stories, that it makes the learning come alive. and kids remember it and retain it, and it's significant to them, you know. And it
Yes,
was so
it is.
fun just having that memory with her at 15 over
Lovely.
these stories that we'd read over the years.
Well, talking about that, we were looking now with children that are in the upper teens and young adults. And as we were going through the guide and revamping it, and there were so many memories that were stirred in my own heart as we worked through it. And I was thinking, gosh, there was this little child, and they are now this adult, and just the love and the joy that we actually were able to walk this journey together, and one outside of a sort of rigid structure, but with enough activity and enough progression for mom to know that her children are learning and for the children to be stimulated. Along that line, Shirley, we're going to put a link below to a document about how Little Footprints compares to CAPS, which you've recently done a really great comparison. Would you like to just add a little bit about that?
Yeah, so anybody can download the CAPS documents from the government websites, and you'll see that for life skills in the foundation phase, which is grade R to grade 3, they list about 40 topics that are set out term by term, and the children revisit those same topics each year in the foundation phase. And when we looked at what is suggested by the CAPS document, because it does allow flexibility for teachers to change up those themes according to what the teacher thinks is more suitable. So we as teachers also, we're not obligated to even follow the CAPS document. But if you just want to know with peace of mind that your kids aren't missing anything, we cover all of those topics. And there were 40 of them. And when we tallied up all the different themes and topics in our story-based lessons, there are actually over 140. So we meet and we by far exceed what is suggested in the CAPS document. And it's fun. It's not a heavy burden to do those 140 topics because they all come up in stories. So it's actually stress-free for mothers, but it's deeply enriching for the children because the themes are so interconnected that it really gives them a rich learning experience.
Yeah, fantastic. So in terms of what needs to be added to Little Footprints, I think it's good for parents to know that if your children are below 7 years of age, you really don't need much more than maybe a little number letter recognition program, something like ABC Fun. If they are older than that, you might want to add in some a phonics and a maths program. But besides for that, for parents who have bought Little Footprints now and they are about to embark on this journey, let's break down the steps of how you're going to get started. What's your first day, or let's say, what's your prep week going to look like? And then what's your first day going to look like? So you go for the prep week. What would you say to the mums?
I always recommend that you look through the curriculum guide that we've provided you, because in the introductory chapters, we've got articles about how to do nature study, for example, how to teach art appreciation, what's the purpose of poetry, and how to do poetry and have a little poetry and tea session once a week. We give you practical tips on how to do art appreciation, why reading aloud is important, how to build language skills in your children, and how to do it all in a Charlotte Mason style. And yet we also tell you how you can be flexible, and we give you some templates to use to structure your week, plan your lessons, but still allow for all the interruptions that we know life throws at homeschooling families. And the idea is that all of these chapters will help you as the parent to feel more confident. And then the lessons start. And so what we suggest is that before your school year starts, let's say you're starting in January next year when the school year begins, look over the first couple of lessons. And then for the first week, make sure you've got the craft things, any recipe ingredients, any other things that you might need to do the lessons that you choose to do. And you don't even have to do all of them. You can pick and choose. And there's a checklist where you can mark off what you've done. So for record keeping, you know what your children did. And basically from there on, you read the story, you open and you go. You just choose which of the ideas we've put forward you want to do with your children. And it's all ready for you at your fingertips to make everything much more easy.
So I like to say to moms when they're about to start their first week is that look at your week. If you've got a dancing lesson in the afternoon, or you've got a play date, or that's your really busy shopping or housekeeping day, what you want to do is looking at your activities that you're going to choose appropriate activities for what your afternoon is going to look like. If you've got a whole day at home, do the art and the craft, because those always take longer to set up and to clean up afterwards. But if you've got a busy afternoon, say your homeschool support group meeting is meeting for a little tea and play date, you might want to then do only the language and the discussion. That'll be quicker. So you are master of your own ship, basically. So you wake up in the morning, you do your chores, do your devotions, and then read your storybook together, do your chosen activities, let your children go out to play. I mean, it really doesn't get better than that in terms of homeschooling. It's really what you want. So in closing, how would you wrap this up for a new mom about to start? What would be the one tip for her as she progresses into Little Footprints?
I think to realize that you are going to do more than enough, even on those bad days when you think you didn't get enough lessons done and enough pages in books. Actually, what your children need is your presence, because home education is not only about academics, it's about the character training. And so when your day gets disrupted because somebody's having a temper tantrum, or they're not cooperating, or they need some discipline and input from you into their character, that's the lesson for the day.
Yeah.
And if all you do is read them a story, train them to do their chores, and let them play for that day, that's a highly productive day. You don't have to tick off all the activities that we've put in that guide for you. You really can be flexible, and you still are going to be giving them that rich, story-driven education. With a mom and stories, I think that's a recipe for success. Absolutely. The rest is just extra fluff and extra bonus, you know.
100%. And then I'll just add to that, is that you're going to have friends around you that are doing something very different. Not necessarily Little Footprints. Maybe some are going for a more sort of school at home approach. Put your blinkers on. This is what is right for your family. You walk it out with your particular needs in mind, and enjoy the journey. One of the biggest things that you can do to hamper your homeschooling adventure is comparison to another homeschooler. So that's it. That's a wrap. And hope everybody who has watched this and is about to embark on Little Footprints has a wonderful journey, and let us know about it.